Howdy, Ags. AP from the Tailgate, home of Aggie football, baby. Corey, what's up, man?
Not much, buddy. Where are you? You in the woods or something?
I'm at the ranch, my friend.
At the ranch.
Yeah. So I think most folks can tell you that my day job is tax attorney, right? I'm a tax controversy attorney. That's what I do to pay the bills. My second job is this nice little operation me and you got right here.
Yeah.
It doesn't pay the bills, but it does give me some expenses. So there's that.
There you go.
And now my third job is rancher. Just a little while ago, I was out counting the cattle, giving them some feed, making sure everybody was safe, taking care of my business.
Right. All right. Let's get to talking about football. Getting pretty deep over here. Mr.
Yeah.
Rancher.
You better bring your rubber boots in this conversation.
I was
That's
about
all
to
I'm going
say.
to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
So today's episode brought to you by Frida Homes, Building Aggie Dreams. Visit them at fridahomes.com. To get a hold of us at the show, if you've got questions, comments, obviously you can leave them on YouTube. You can also email us at agstailgate@gmail.com. We will respond to those comments and questions as much as we possibly can. Corey, it's getting pretty excited. We are a month from kickoff, baby. 1 month.
That's it, baby. That's it. Can't wait.
Dude, it is awesome. And actually, a week less from college football kickoff, which starts the weekend before, right? We'll have some games leading up into that point.
What do they call that? Weekend zero or something like that? Something stupid?
Something like that. Week zero, whatever they want to call
Yeah.
it. It's another week of college football. It's when our betting begins, right?
We hope
it'll begin before that, but
yeah.
So a couple of quick news and notes. One, we got a kid hit the transfer portal, Jason Harris, defensive end, big time 4-star recruit from last year's class, transferring over to Rutgers. Trying to get some playing time with obviously all the bodies that the Aggies have on the defensive line. So Jason Harris, good luck to you, sir.
Is he eligible for this season?
Yeah, I think he'll be eligible for this season, and there's no reason why he shouldn't look to an opportunity where he can get some playing time, which obviously he wasn't going to do much of, it appears, here on campus.
How big a loss is that?
He was a big time recruit, though. I mean, he was a high 4-star kid at defensive end.
Do we have any other high 4 stars or 5 stars on that D line? Are we gonna be okay?
We're lacking talent.
Lacking talent.
Second big piece of news: Ainias Smith, charges dropped, suspension lifted. He's 100% back to the program. This bad boy is on track to get the season started right. Corey?
Hey, boy Craig Greening came through. Met Craig, the lawyer, when he was over there with Cameron and Jim James, and I guess Craig did his deal. Did what he had to do, got Ainias off. I guess Ainias is innocent,
That's right.
No charges, nothing at all.
There's also something to be said. I think it was it Chris Carter during one of those NFL symposiums that told folks hey, you have to have a fall guy, man. You got to keep a fall guy with you. Apparently, Ainias' buddy went ahead and took the rap on at least the weed, right? So good strategy there by Ainias. And I'm also glad to see that Jimbo, I think, reached out to his folks over there and started paying the police officers enough to make sure that they were taking care of those kids too. So, we've got the funds going in there. Is that? Oh, my bad. That wasn't supposed to be said here today?
Maybe it's all right. Doesn't matter. We say whatever the hell we want to anyway.
That's right. Even more importantly, though, than making sure that the police department is taken care of over there in Aggieland, more important than that, Jimbo has obviously come back to his our boosters and the folks supporting A&M and let them know that it's okay to start paying the players again. So,
thank God.
On that note, pool party. Can you say the barbecue?
There you go.
Big event in Aggie land this past weekend, Corey. Recruits from 23, 24, 25. So all just a bunch of guys, a lot of big time names. We're not going to go over all these names and everything else, but we will hit a couple of things. First of all, everything tells you it was a huge success from everybody you talked to that was there and everything else. Huge success, just great time. Apparently, the kids are recruiting themselves at this point. They get them all together at the pool party, and man, they sort of take care of business. Coming out of that, already several commits since then, starting with, and I think probably this class's most important commit, this is my opinion, 5-star linebacker Anthony Hill out of Denton Ryan. Man, that was a huge get. What do you got, Corey?
Oh, I'd love to see him suit up this year. We could use some linebackers. I mean, that's one place we're not that deep is linebacker. But hey, bringing in a 5-star can't hurt. I mean, future's bright. Keeps getting brighter and brighter every day.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's a position of need. There's no question, right? I mean, it's a position of need, and so, bringing him in at that level after missing out on last year's linebacker, 5-star linebacker, I think is huge. I think it's huge to get him in early so that he can start his recruiting process, because he's one of those guys that's going to talk to a bunch of folks, a bunch of other recruits, and try to get them on board, especially on the defensive side. So I love it, man. Great get. And, it was a situation where you took him from Texas, which, just across the state. So an in-state rivalry on the recruiting side.
Yeah, that is big. What's the word on that quarterback from USC? Any news on him?
Well, and there's your other piece of news. Nice there, Corey. So a couple, we had Malachi Nelson shows up, in spite of the fact that he's committed to USC. He's a California kid. He's been with Lincoln Riley for a while. He was committed to Oklahoma at Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma prior to that. Big time #1 recruit in the class, and he was at the pool party. A lot of speculation about whether or not he's going to stick to his commitment to USC. This is big. This is a big one for Jimbo. This obviously is the #1 recruit in the country. He surpassed Arch Manning as the #1 quarterback in the country. He's got all the tools that you would want out of your quarterback. And the question is, can Jimbo convince him that coming to play here for him is better than going to play at USC for Lincoln Riley? Let me ask you this. How do you think that ends up?
Man, I hope it works out well for us. I'm not sure about Lincoln Riley. I'm not sure what else going on out there, but you can't get too much depth in that quarterback room. I know that someone screwed it up once. I don't think Jimbo's going to screw it up. I mean, you get how many guys did we have in the past? 2 or 3 guys that are in NFL teams that were on the same roster, and we couldn't keep one of them. So, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's a great point there, Corey, because, look, right now the quarterback room is great for this year, but you can expect that one of the top 2, either Haynes or Max is going to transfer at the end of the year or at some point here in the next season. Right. And, then you've got Connor and whoever's remaining, and you still need another body in there. So they need somebody in this recruiting class. Now, I'll tell you this, if it isn't Malachi, I mean, they can go down and get a body, right? They can go get a 3-star kid that has some potential, can grow into a role, and those types of things to fit that need, because Connor's going to be a freshman, right? Connor's going to be a freshman, and that's going to give you some ability to sort of push through, but you need somebody. You need a recruit in that spot.
And what you're saying, I mean, I'm not really worried about, if we lose Max or Haynes, I mean, that sucks. I mean, both those guys are good players, but I don't see us losing Connor. at all, no matter who comes here. Connor's an Aggie. That guy, you
Right.
hear him talk, and he's wanting to be an Aggie. He's wanted to be an Aggie for a while. He's going to stay around. He's going to be a baller. So either way, I think our future's bright with him for 2 or 3 years down the road.
I agree, and that's why I say that it doesn't have to be Malachi Nelson, right? It doesn't have to be Malachi. It can be somebody else. As a matter of fact, you got a guy that was rumored to be considering the Aggies in Austin, Novosad, who is committed to Baylor, right? Austin Novosad committed to Baylor. He was considering a couple of other schools, including A&M, Ohio State, Notre Dame, I think, was in the group maybe. And he's come out and said he's strong to Baylor now. He's committed to Baylor. He's not going anywhere. I imagine it probably has a little something to do because he's got some Aggie ties, family ties. It probably has a little something to do with the Aggies recruiting Malachi right now as hard as they possibly can.
Yeah, and it's not, I mean, I can't imagine anybody ever coming out saying, I got strong ties to Baylor. I'm staying with Baylor. I don't know why any idiot would ever say that. So, I mean, do we really want the guy after he says something like that? You got to think about,
Look, I think he's a good kid. I think he's a good kid. I think he's a good, really good
I'm worried
quarterback.
about his head. I'm worried about where that head's at. I'm worried about that kid.
If this was Baylor a couple of years ago, I'd agree with you. But under Aranda, I like the guy. I think he's a good coach. So they're a solid program right now.
Oh yeah, I mean the Big 12's tough. They're going to have a hard time this year. It's going to be rough.
Yeah.
Big 12 SEC, they're knocking heads. I mean, they're going to be.
Look, another. So moving on from the quarterbacks, obviously that's going to be one of the big talking points throughout this recruiting cycle of who the quarterback is. I'm sure that you'll figure out what's going on with Malachi, and if he's not the guy, they'll go pick some other body to be the third quarterback in the room. Another position that showed up, 5-star safety Tony Mitchell, committed to Bama already. He was in town. He was at the pool party. Jimbo trying to pull a little magic and try to get this 5-star Alabama commit to flip sides. What do you think?
I love it, man. I mean, people are going to do it to us. We're going to do it to them. It's just the way college football is now. I mean, I can't blame the kid for going out and testing the waters, seeing what's out there, seeing what people have to offer. There's money. There's life-changing money out there for these kids, and I'd be the same. I'd be in the same their shoes too. I'd be going out saying, "Hey, what can I do here? What's my best opportunity to get on the field to show what I can do?" I mean, they're going to be playing each other. You're playing talent. If you're in the SEC, you're playing talent. I don't care if you go to Vanderbilt. You're going to be playing against talented teams. People are going to see you. I mean, I think Vanderbilt had as many people get drafted or in the first couple rounds as Texas did last year. If you look at it.
No, that's a great point there, Corey. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, in reality, that's the fact of the matter is it's not even today's college football, right? I mean, recruits have been flipping commitment for 20 years, 30 years. I mean, that's not a new thing in college football. It is what it is. You got to recruit them all the way through the signing, and everybody knows that. So it'd be great. He'd be a great get to add to this class for sure.
But what I'm saying is the proof is in the pudding. I mean, look at the SEC every year in the NFL draft. Right. Who dominates the NFL draft boards? It's the SEC. So, I mean, it doesn't –
If you want to play in the NFL, come play in the SEC. There's no question.
Exactly. And I feel sorry for Harris going to Rutgers. I was just getting back to that. Rutgers, I mean, if he had a choice, I would have gone somewhere in the SEC. I would have stayed closer to home, somewhere in Texas. Football in Texas is a lot better than football in New Jersey.
He's from up in that area though, right?
Well, he should have stayed around here anyway. Just saying.
I mean, great point on the SEC and just the way. I mean, like you said, the proof is in the pudding, right? So the NFL draft shows it every year. If you come play it here in the SEC, you've got a higher likelihood of ending up in the NFL because you're competing against the best, right?
Exactly.
Even on teams like Vandy, because they're going to have a chance to show out against some of this top-end talent as well.
I mean, it's even guys that don't get drafted. Exactly. I mean, there's guys that don't get drafted that sign NFL teams every year. We had, 3 or 4 Aggies from last year's class didn't get drafted. They're with the NFL team somewhere doing something.
So absolutely correct. Give yourself a chance, right? And here's the other thing. It doesn't hurt to sign up with one of these schools that's going to pay you a little NIL money while you're here, sacrificing your body for the school, right?
Exactly.
I think Aggies pay a little NIL money, so I recommend some of these athletes to come on over and experience that part of it.
That's right.
Corey, you were offering an NIL for your trucking business, correct?
Exactly. Can't really afford it right now. I got a truck down, so it's going to be kind of hard. But
so, all right. So here's a couple of things. Aside from Anthony Hill, a couple more recruits since the pool party. Dalton Brooks, a kid from Shiner, probably a safety, but he's an athlete, running back safety kind of kid. Also with offers from Bama and Texas, he committed. 4-star guy, 3-star defensive lineman Samu Taumanupepe. Sorry, I can't say that.
Love it. Is he Hawaiian?
3-star kid, 6'3", 380 pounds, my man.
Love it. Is he Hawaiian? Is that a Hawaiian name that Taumanupepe? Because I love those Hawaiian players. You know what I'm saying? The big husky guys.
The name sounds it. The name sounds it.
They eat up some space in there, man.
And well, that's one thing he will do.
Yeah.
At 380, stick him in there, he'll stop the run on his own.
Oh, I didn't know if you say he's going to eat or just take up space or what he was going to do, but yeah.
And then 2024 commit defensive lineman Dalen Evans, also, so another big time guy. But, they've gotten some recruits since then, really picked up on the recruiting trail in the last couple of weeks. In reality, they're up to 9 in the class, which a class that's currently ranked around 33, 34, depending on who you look at, somewhere in that range. But the average grade for the 9 players is a 93.07, which is top 5 in the country, right? So in reality, at this point, they just got to sort of keep adding quality players. It's not going to be a big class. It's not going to be like last year that was almost 30 or was 30. It's more along the lines of a number around 20, 20 guys, maybe, plus or minus a couple of folks there. So, just keep adding quality players, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and recruiting is one thing, but as big as the transfer portal is now, I mean, look at what Alabama's done the last few years and these other big programs. And they go out and get players. It's like a free agent. I mean, they pick up some of the best players every year. Alabama's got a running back from Georgia Tech this year. I don't know. You got a couple of wide receivers that were, I think they got who's best wide receiver they just get? Was it Georgia's or somebody's? I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, the guy from Georgia.
But I mean, every year. I mean, so A&M's gonna get in that eventually, but we don't need to right now. We have the depth and the talent, and we're not losing players.
I'm a firm believer, man. If you keep developing them, the young guys, man, you don't even have to hit the transfer portal very hard, right? I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, I would prefer
that's the thing.
I would prefer that.
Yeah, I prefer to develop them also. But if you don't, what I'm saying is there's also other options.
So, trying to, just rounding out the recruiting talk, biggest need for this class. Obviously, we just got the linebacker. We talked about how big of a need that was. Remaining biggest need for this class. What is the one thing you would say? Hey, we got to get this.
I mean, I like the linebacker. I mean, I'd load up on linebackers. To be honest with you, D-line, we're set D-line for years. It seems like. I mean, we got D-line after D-line after D-line. Secondary strong. We're getting some linebackers. Our wide receivers.
I think there's one position in particular I'm thinking about.
I mean, we can always use offensive line. O-line's always a big need. Running backs, we could always use running backs because, I mean, but quarterback seems like we have depth there now. Tight ends were strong. Wide receiver. So, yeah, O-line, linebacker, and I think that's about where I'm at right now is O-line. Where are you at?
I'd say, yeah, and for sure, the linebacker, like we talked about, I mean, Anthony Hill is going to be a big piece of that. And, they've got some good pieces in there, but he's really going to be a guy that adds to the level of play at that position. I think O-line's is a big group for this class. I think They need some quality offensive line depth. I want to say they have to sign 4 at least, and you're probably if I could get
you were saying
6,
that last year I thought you said last year we need to sign like 4 guys a year in order to stay competitive with the O line.
Well, last year they ended up signing.
I thought that's what you said. I thought you said we need
to
sign like 4
and that's my
year.
point. You got to do it every year with the offensive line, right? You're putting 5 of those guys on the field every year, so you need to add those kind of numbers every year. Last year, right. there was I think we ended up with 4, and that's a good number. But in reality, in a class as big as last year's of 30 players, I mean, 5 or 6 should have been the number, right? And this year, I think they have to try to make up for that a little bit and get at least 5. Hopefully they're able to get there. But, you got to always add talent on the offensive line. There's so many of those guys that play, and there's injuries and everything else. And, with the big guys, it's always hard to tell how they're going to continue to grow and develop into that body, right? So there's going to be guys that fall off, right? I mean, it's just part of it.
Exactly. I mean, and we haven't been a school to develop offensive line that well as Arkansas has. I mean, look at what we've done. Last year, they kind of sucked. So hopefully we're getting better.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a big piece of it too. You got to develop those guys, and I think our new coach hopefully does that. Hopefully he sticks around for many years. All right, so that sort of good talk about recruiting. Look, the fact of the matter is that what was it, like 2 weeks ago? There was it Brady Quinn that comes out talking shit about the Aggie recruiting, and he gets slapped in the face by everybody that knows anything about football, saying you're an idiot, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And he's basically an idiot. He was a disappointment as a quarterback. He was a disappointment as an NFL player, and now he's a disappointment as a news analyst and definitely a college football analyst. Yeah. So
exactly.
Brady Quinn, thank you for playing. Bye-bye.
Yeah, he's definitely getting fired.
He should. He definitely should.
He's gone. He's gone.
So good news for the Aggies. They picked it up, and that'll continue. There's a lot of projections that we may hear some news in the next couple of weeks as well as some more of these players coming in and signing. So we'll continue to update that list and see what happens. Another big thing here now, we've talked about it. Kids, the athletes, the players reported today to campus. Everybody's there. Practice officially starts tomorrow. Those guys are getting geared up. They'll have their, time without pads. Probably I think it's 4 practice without pads or something like that, and then you get into the shells and so on and so forth. But before we start getting into some of the things anticipating practice, we got a bunch of preseason awards lists, and we got some guys on these awards lists. So let me go through a couple of these, Corey. Let me see what you think.
Yeah.
Devon Achane got included in the Hornung list, which is the most versatile player in college football. Foster to the Remington list, which is for the centers. Here's the 2 guys that got. Let's go here. McKinley Jackson is on the Outland, which is top interior lineman, offense or defense. Constantino, the Ray guy, for the punter. And then these 2 guys were on multiple lists and really are getting a lot of praise from all around the country. Layden Robinson, who was named to the Outland Trophy list, which is the top interior lineman, the Werfel, which is community service and leadership, and the Lombardi for most outstanding overall lineman, offense or defense. All right, so some nice praise there for Layden Robinson preseason. And then Antonio Johnson, no surprise, a guy that we've been talking about all offseason is going to be the best player on this defense. He was nominated for the Thorpe for the best DB, the Nagurski, the best defensive player, Bednarik for most outstanding defensive player. So good representation. Corey, what are your thoughts?
I like what I see. I don't see Anais Smith on anything. That's disappointing. I think he's one of the top receivers, especially coming back. I'm not sure what the award is for punt returner, kickoff returner, whatever. I mean, he's top punt returner in the nation, I think. One of them coming back, and even as a receiver, he's up there. I don't understand why he's not in any awards. I mean, Achane, duh. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's just duh. The guy's just awesome. Johnson's awesome. We've known that. We've watched them play. They should be on the awards list, but I think Anias isn't getting the credits that's due to him. But it's great to see those guys get recognized that are on the list. I mean, I think it's
that's a great point. Yeah. Clear omission, if you ask me, like you said, on all these. I mean, it's I'll tell you one other guy that I thought would probably get a little bit of recognition is Reuben Fathery. Reuben Fathery, who I thought had a much better year than Foster, who's on some of these lists. Reuben Fathery, no real mention there. I expect him to have a tremendous year this year.
Right.
And I'm looking forward to seeing his name on the postseason award lists.
That's the one that's really important.
Which mean a lot.
Yeah,
mean a lot more.
Yep. I'm really surprised McKinley Jackson showed up on some of those lists too. To be honest.
Yeah, he didn't have a great year last year, right? I mean, he wasn't very, very productive.
Yeah, no, that's crazy that he's on there.
All right, so they're starting practice tomorrow. They'll be out there in T-shirts and helmets. Going through a lot of walkthroughs, drills, that kind of stuff. First day of practice is a lot of acclimation, getting the kids used to everything, figuring out where they got to be, where they got to go, all those things, how the rotations work, all those kinds of things, right? And so it'll be fun to start watching that process. Obviously, you'll start seeing more and more as they start putting the shells on and the pads on as far as who's doing what and everything else. Because, we always used to talk about the guys that, showed up early in camp whenever no pads were on. It's like, look like Tarzan, play like Jane. They always they always show out when there's no hitting and whatnot. They look great, but the moment it gets physical out there, then you know who the real players are, right? Those guys step up when the hitting begins. So that'll give you a much better idea. That'll be more next week. So let's go through a few things. Corey, in your opinion, top 3 things to watch during fall camp. Just generally 3 things to watch.
Well, the first thing, of course, is the quarterback competition. I mean, that's number one. You got to follow that and see where that lands. See who's if anybody's stepping up or if they're just really competing against each other. Of course, the defensive line. There's going to be. I mean, I don't know how many players we have competing for spots on that defensive line. I think it's more than double figures. We got more than 10 players. I think. Competing for starting or for playing time. What else? Wide receivers. See who's going to be there for the wide receivers. Who's going to be our starting tight end? There's a lot of question marks. They're everywhere right now on offense. The O-line. How's that new O-line coach going to? What's he going to do? What's he doing? What's our D-line? What's our D? I mean, there's so many questions coming into the season. We have so much talent. We're just not sure about where's it set at.
I'll give you my 3.
Go ahead.
And I'm gonna go a different route than where you went. All right. And this, I do agree, 100%. The D-line rotation is huge.
Right.
But I'm gonna go more specific than that. I want to know who's bringing the pressure. Who's playing defensive end? Where's those reps coming from? Who's getting the reps during third down? Who's the D-line guys on third down? What kind of rotation are they going from on first and second down to third down with more rusher-type guys, right? Who are the guys getting the pressure? I think that's one of, that's not –
Al, you're going to see a lot of pressure come from the interior of that defensive line this year, I bet you. I bet you're going to see a lot of pressure coming right up the middle. You're going to see a lot.
I like that.
Up the middle.
I like that.
That quarterback's not going to have a whole lot of time.
Nothing quarterbacks hate more than middle pressure up the middle, right?
Because exactly. Because there's going to be a lot of 3-step drops and getting rid of that ball quick because we're going to have so much pressure on them up the middle. So go ahead.
Hey, that's Zach Calzada, who was constantly getting pressure right up the middle last year.
That's what I'm saying. Write that down. Go ahead.
So I think that's one thing for me to watch. Another one, also on the defensive side, is generally the defensive alignment. What are these guys doing on first and second down? How complex are they going to get with their play calling on defense? How versatile and interchangeable are the different guys that they're going to use at linebacker, defensive end, even into the nickel safeties. How much are they bringing some of those guys? Are they going to simplify the scheme some to get the young guys up and running instead of just doing what they did last year with Elko, where we had a bunch of blown assignments all the time? I mean, I want to know, what are they doing as far as that defensive alignment and the play calling? What are we going to see, depending on the different downs and distances that we're gonna see during the season, right? That to me is one of the other things that I think is huge for this team going forward, because we have the athletes to play defense. The question is whether they're going to know their assignment well enough and be able to execute it on every single play that they're going to actually be successful, Corey.
No, I agree with you. That is a big question mark. But like I was saying earlier, there's question marks everywhere on both sides of the ball. I mean, where are you at sitting with quarterback? I mean, I have no idea.
So let me give you my third. I'm going to give you my third one.
Go ahead.
My third thing to watch. I'm not going to say quarterback. I'm not.
Don't.
My third thing to watch is going to be the passing game in general. I want to see the play caller, the execution of the passing game.
That's the same damn thing you say every year. It's the same thing you say every year. Jimbo's play calling. We just need to hire a freaking offensive coordinator. I'm telling you right now, Jimbo's got to suck up his pride and say, hey, man, I need to put this blame on somebody else, because I'm tired of getting yelled at by Alejo Pacini, because I'm just being serious. He needs to step. I mean, he needs to do that. That's the reason why somebody's a boss and you hire people under you, because that guy's wrong. That way somebody else can be wrong instead of you being the head coach. Because right now, I'd fire the head coach because he sucks as offensive coordinator because he can't get the ball downfield.
And to me, that part of the thing is that there's also a fact that as the offensive coordinator, him calling plays, he takes away from his duties as a head coach. He's unable to perform all his duties as a head coach.
He's not managing the team. He's not managing the team. He's managing the offense, and he's focused on that. And, of course, I mean, he's letting the other coaches coach their positions, but he needs a guy to take control of that offense. That's his focus. That's his main focus. And Jimbo can focus. I mean, that's what a head coach should do. It should be the manager of the team, then you just like any other business. But I don't know.
I agree.
Realize that yet. And so it's the same damn conversation we have every year.
It is. But that to me is why it's so important, because it's the question of whether he's able to actually evolve this year, right? Can he change? He's been talking a big game about all that here in the offseason. It's not going to change,
man. He's an old dog.
Actually do something about it.
It's the same. We're going to have the same conversation next year. He's an old dog. He's not going to learn any new tricks. We're going to be sitting here doing the same conversation, saying, why didn't we get the ball downfield? Why isn't he doing any rub routes? Why is he not doing this? I mean, it's going to be like we have talent here, but not getting them open. It's going to be the same damn conversation until somebody, I think the athletic director is going to have to sit down with him and say, hey, man, you need to hire an offensive coordinator, okay? Because I'm not saying you have to. I'm telling you to hire an offensive coordinator and let him coordinate the offense.
Eventually, they will start putting pressure on him for his offensive play calling, right? And he will have to make a decision, I think, eventually.
He's talked about it. He's talked about, hey, we need to get the ball downfield. He talks about it. It's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to do it.
Correct. And so, as you can see, part of the reason I left out the quarterback is because I think that the factors around it are going to be more influential than the quarterback himself. I actually think that with the improved offensive line play, and if Jimbo can call a better game, it really isn't going to matter which one of those three guys, and I include Connor in this conversation, not just Max and Haynes, right? I include all three of these guys. It doesn't really matter to me which one of them is taking the snaps behind center if he's getting the help he needs from the different positions around him as well as the play caller, right? I think they're all competent. I think they're all competent quarterbacks. I actually believe that Haynes has the bigger upside between him and Max. I'd love for Haynes to win that job. I think Connor's going to end up winning the job next year, not this year. He's going to grow through his freshman year.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, any one of them can be successful on this team because of the talent around them. You see what I'm saying?
I do understand. I see what you're saying. But like I said, I mean,
all right,
we're
so
same conversation.
top 3 things to watch there.
Yep.
Maybe. Very, very likely.
Yeah.
All right, so how about this? Let's bring it in a little bit tighter and look at the top 3 players that need to step up. Top 3 players.
What?
Top 3 players that need to step up for this team to be successful this year.
Number 1, McKinley Jackson. He's got to step up. He's got to be a leader with that young defensive line. He's got to play better than he did last year. He's got to stay out of trouble. He's got to be I don't want to say role model, but he's got to be a leader. He's got to show those guys what to do and what not to do. And that starts on and off the field. It starts with work ethic, practice. I mean, he might not be as talented as a lot of these guys that we just got, but he needs to get out there and work his ass off and show them how to work. Number 2, I mean, we're thin at the position. I think linebacker. I mean, either White, one of those guys are going to have to step up, and I think White needs to take a big step up this year. I've been high on him the whole time. I think he needs to keep his head up and not just, you know what I'm saying? Not just find go ball, see ball, tackle ball. I want him to read, do a little bit more reading.
Yeah.
That's my 2, and then just pick somebody from the offensive line. I don't know which one you want to pick, but one of those guys has to step up and be a big leader. We lost a big one last year. So, I mean, who's our next? You know, I don't know who it's going to be, but one of those guys needs to step up.
Look, I think that's a great 3, and I'll tell you, mine is not too far off from that. As the offensive line group, I think it's Foster that needs to have a big season this year.
That's what I was going to say, but I didn't. I was like, yeah, but I mean, we're not even sure if he's going to be the starting center, right? He might be moved to guard. I mean, we don't know.
He's going to get a spot, and I do expect that it's center. I actually believe that Wyckoff would step right into second. Man, I've been just so impressed with how he's performed so far, and I think keeping him off, but the fact is that there's a bunch of bodies to drop in at guard right there, right? Whether Aggie or
you don't even talk about Trainer. We talked about Trainer. We don't even talk about
Trainer.
Him. Yeah.
Right. I mean, so they've got so many options at guard. You think that, one of those guys is going to get in there and get the opportunity to play, which probably makes Wyckoff the odd man out and have him as a back, which, by the way, good to have a good backup center. We've known how it is to lose a center and how much we need a good guy to be able to step in at that position. Exactly. So that's huge, right? That's huge.
Yep. Yeah.
But Foster's going to be my guy there on the offensive line. I fully think that he has, for this team to be at its highest level of performance, he has to be a guy that plays well, because I think the other pieces around him, by the way, are going to play really well as far as offensive line is concerned. Okay.
Right.
I'll tell you another guy, Jalen Jones. We put a lot of expectations on him last year. Boy, if you remember from last year preseason, man, I thought that kid was about to have a phenomenal year, breakout, all SEC type performance after what he did as a freshman, starting every game as a freshman, right? I was so impressed. I really enjoyed watching him play, practice, and all those things. And not really all that good of a season last year, especially the second half of the year. He just at times looked lost in coverage. He just was missing assignments. I don't know. Unimpressed. 5-star guy, big-time recruit, Jalen Jones. I think he's a guy that needs to step up. And I don't know if that doesn't mean a shift to safety, by the way, for Jalen Jones, which I think would be a really good move for him as a player, because he's that bigger body kind of guy. Boy, or even at nickel, right? Even moving him into nickel where Antonio Johnson played last year and let Antonio Johnson play that deep safety that Leon O'Neal was playing last year, right? But sort of in those spots. I don't know. You don't like that?
I'm not moving Antonio Johnson from a position that he was really strong at last year to try something out with Jalen Jones. No, I'm leaving Antonio Johnson right where he's at. But go ahead. That was a dumbass thing you just said, but go ahead.
Well, it's not just to try Jalen Jones there. It's because I think we still need somebody to fill that deep safety spot. And Antonio Johnson's probably the best guy for the job, by the way.
He's also the best guy for what he did last year. Go ahead.
Sure, because he's our best.
You don't change. You don't fix something that's not broken. Don't fix something that's not broken. But go ahead. I'm listening.
Right. So Jalen Jones, that's number 2. And my number 3 guy, as far as a guy that I think somebody needs to step up. I've tried it 1,000 times, right? A defensive end, but I don't know who that is. So I'm keeping that out. My number 3 guy is something similar to Cooper.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Cooper, White, same thing. I mean, that's what I was saying. One of those. There's only 2 of them, though. I mean, who else do you pick from? We need more options.
He is a difference maker as a linebacker because of his athleticism, his ability to, be sideline to sideline, and he's got great instincts at the position. I mean, I was so impressed by how much he improved last year from beginning of the season to end of the season, and I think for this defense to be as good as it possibly can be, he's got to be a guy. He's got to be a guy that continues to improve from last year to this year in a massive, massive way, and he's got to become a leader on this defense. So there's my number 3.
Okay.
Here's the next one. About top 3 surprise performers. So guys maybe that not getting a lot of pub yet, but show out early on in the season and start producing for this team.
Well, I mean, our freshmen are such high regard. I mean, is it really a surprise? I'd say Jake Johnson at tight end because I think he's going to be great. I think Nolan at defensive tackle is going to be great. But, I mean, those are 2 5-star picks. It's not like it's, okay, you went with the 5 stars. I think breakout guys, top, surprise. I mean, I don't know if Preston's going to be a surprise since he did it last year in LSU, but I think he's going to have a big season. Moose, if we're actually going to throw the ball downfield, I think Muhammad and Preston will be big parts of that. But other than that, I mean, most of the stuff people know about, it's going to be the defensive line. We have a bunch of talent. It's hard to say a surprise on the offensive line because just don't get the accolades. You know what I'm saying? They don't get the ball.
Yeah, that's a good point. No, look, and I like the guys. I think that the guys that you named are going to have good seasons, right? I like those guys. I'm going to go a little bit deeper down into the hole here of guys that aren't getting old. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Anais, good one. Go.
Yeah. Guys not getting any pub whatsoever in this, going into the season. And here's a couple of names that I'm going to pull out of nowhere. Okay.
Go ahead.
One is not really out of nowhere because it's a guy that I've been hyping up for 2 years now. That's Donnell Harris.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Jalen Jones. Go ahead.
Donnell, I'm hoping comes up big this year. He is the prototypical pass rusher, man. That kid has the tools needed, the body build, everything to be a prototypical edge rusher, man. The dude is explosive. And as a junior, third-year guy, I fully expect for him to have some production. I said this last year, and it didn't happen. Let's see if it happens this year. Maybe Donnell's the reason that Jay-Zon said, hey, I got to go.
Maybe.
Point being is Donnell Harris is, like I said, surprise performer for the Hope of Seeing. There's one.
Go ahead.
Here's another guy. And with so much depth in the defensive backfield, and specifically at cornerback, this guy's not getting any run whatsoever. And he is coming off of an injury. So we'll see sort of how he acclimates to getting back on the field. But Josh Moten, I was really, really impressed with Moten as he went through spring ball last year, and he ended up getting hurt and was out the entire season. He came back this spring as well. Started even getting back into things.
What did he hurt? Is it a knee injury or what?
I can't remember now. But I want to say it was a knee injury. I do think it was a knee injury because it was a serious deal. But
that's tough for a defensive back. That's a tough one for a defensive back to turn and burn.
That's a good point. I'll say this. I was impressed with the guy. And, he wasn't as highly touted as a recruit as some of these other guys, but, man, he came out and performed. And he was, that was going into his freshman season last year. So.
Yeah, it sucks.
So, hopefully he can carve out a little bit of role in the rotation there at corner and be a performer. And here's another guy, I was sort of torn on whether to go maybe like a offensive weapon kind of guy so obviously I've done a couple of Ernest Crownover, running back. And I don't know. Obviously, A-Chain's going to be the feature back on this offense. There's no question about that. I think, and me and you have spoken about the fact that we think Ainias Smith is actually going to get a lot more reps this year in the backfield than he did last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Crownover is a good change of pace, man. Big, physical running back with some really good ability, man. And he showed some things, I thought, in the spring that he's ready to get on the field. I like what he brings to the table. I think for right now, he's a better developed player than LJ. And so I think he might be a little bit of a surprise performer there. Ernest Crownover.
Okay. I'm not really excited about that one, but the other one's a lot better.
Amari Daniels is another guy I didn't mention, and he's one of the guys that probably gets some reps at coming out of the backfield as well. So.
All right.
All right. So a lot to look forward to. Practice beginning tomorrow. Man, next week we'll have a little bit more to talk about as far as what has happened so far. Let's go to questions from the tailgate, brought to you by Rawson Distributing, assisting Aggies with all their drilling needs. Aggie owned and operated. Rawson Distributing. All right, Corey. What person will have the biggest impact on the 2022 Texas A&M football season?
What person? Is that what you're asking? What person?
That's correct.
Jimbo.
It's not what I'm asking.
Jimbo's going to have the biggest effect about his play calling. We can't quit talking about that. It's ridiculous. It's if he adapts, if he's learned from his mistakes, and that's what's huge in this world. It's learning from mistakes, and if he hasn't, like I said, we're going to have the same conversation, be a disappointing season. If he has, then we'll be sitting here going, yay. But as of right now, we'll see. What do you think?
I don't even have to answer that question. You did it for me. It's not even. There's no question. Actually, it's not even a question, right? I mean,
yeah,
that's
not a personnel issue. It's not. We have the talent to be
talent
anybody on our schedule. Anybody, anyone. It's all coaching now. So it comes down to coaching. Jimbo needs to look in the mirror.
There's no question. Everything else is there. Facilities, talent, the crowd, the fans, the support, the NIL money, you name it, the recruits, whatever. You name it, they've got it. The only thing that has to show up for this team to win and compete for an SEC West championship, for an SEC championship, for a national championship is coaching.
Right.
That's 100%. And he's got it in front of him, and we'll see. He did it with Jameis and that crew when Jameis was in his first year starting as a Florida State Seminole. And he took that loaded team that had, all of their starters ended up basically in the NFL, and he took that loaded team to a national championship. Can he do that with this group? And that's going to be the question. Everything is there. Can he get them to the promised land?
All right. Got a question for you when you're done.
All right. What's your question?
The day is the trade deadline. What do you think? Anything big happen? You like it? What do the Astros do?
I think the Astros are already the haze in the barn, as they say. They brought in Mancini and they brought in the catcher for the Red Sox. So, they've got.
Hey, which catcher they bring in? Who?
Is it Vasquez, the catcher for the Red Sox?
I don't know. I didn't hear that. When everybody's talking about Soto and Bell going to the Padres, I looked at that lineup. I'm not that impressed. I mean, they got 2 through 5 are solid, but 1, 6, 7, 8, 9 still suck.
Look, and that's the thing, right? They've got 3. Well, I guess Bell, you can keep Bell in. The Bell's a good player too, right?
Yeah, that's one too.
You got 3 superstars in that middle of that lineup.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's baseball.
Where's the rest of the team?
Look at the Angels. What the hell are the Angels doing? They got 2 of the best players in all of baseball. They can't win a freaking game. You ain't got pitching, you ain't got baseball, baby.
And just think, they've already given 2 of those guys contracts. What happens now? They're going to have to give the third one a contract too, right? I mean, and don't get me wrong, Soto's a beast. He's an animal. He's one of the best young players in all of baseball. All of those things, but at the end of the day, you've got to have a lineup from 1 to 9. You've got to have a pitching rotation from 1 to 5. You've got to have guys in the bullpen, and that's what it takes to win, especially pitching. I'm excited for the Astros because we're ready to go win another World Series. That's what we're going to do.
Get them.
So, Giga Baggies, AP, Corey, signing out from the tailgate.
Later.